I look at my kids as the upgrade of me. They're better than I am. I want them to be better than me. And where they're not as good as I am, I want to help them to be better. I don't want to be the end of it. That's how your legacy is built, I guess, through your family. I want them to be a better version of me and be stronger and smarter and faster and quicker, more intelligent, and all those things. Failure is a really good thing, even though that sounds weird as a wrestling coach or a person who wants to be successful. But you don't really appreciate success until you failed a bit, and you don't really know what you need to tweak or do better until you failed. Time's undefeated. We can't get more of it. So how we treasure it and value it, precious, and how we use it, that's really critical and important. And I think when you're young, you don't understand that because you think you have all the time in the world.
And welcome back to Wrestling Mindset. Mike Blanchard, welcome aboard. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I know I've been to, your camps you put on in the summer. They've been really awesome over at Nutley. Let's talk about that a little bit. What do you have coming up this year?
Yeah, so this year I kind of extended things. I made it a little bit longer, so we're adding an extra day this year. I have some great clinicians. Every year I try to get some people from New Jersey. We have awesome wrestling in New Jersey, so staples of our clinic tend to be Rutgers guys like Scott Goodale. This year we have Joe Pollard. They're going to be bringing some Nutley guys because we actually had two wrestlers from Nutley that went to Rutgers, the Taranzo brothers, so they'll be coming along with them. We've got Princeton represented with Anthony Ashnault, who's also a New Jersey legend in high school ranks, and then of course at Rutgers as well. But he's now at Princeton University, and I met him this past fall. He's fantastic. We have Vinny Santinello and his boys. Vinny and I wrestled together in college. His older son is going to be going to Trenton State College or College of New Jersey.
I saw that.
Yeah, just transferred, so that's a pretty good transfer for them. Of course, Joe Galante from TCNJ, who's been doing a phenomenal job there. And of course, we wanted to try and get a big name, somebody that, we only get 10 national champions of Division One wrestling. So we wound up getting Mitch Messenbrink, he's actually been wrestling this weekend in the U.S. Open. So he's going to be coming as well. I met him this past fall. It's great, great speaker. He's a psychology major, so really can get into that whole mental aspect of the sport. And then we wanted to attract some more females to our wrestling clinic, so we got Kira Pipkins, who's from Bloomfield, New Jersey, and wrestles at Columbia University. So we got a really great lineup, and I'm excited about running this. I find that what's good for us is that we kind of bring a camp to our kids. Not everybody can make the investment of the time or the money to get somewhere. So
Right.
to come to us, it's pretty affordable and it's reasonable in terms of we do it at night. We do it from 6 to 8 at night. So kids that go to camp during the day, parents that work, they can still get the kids to the clinic and learn something, have a lot of fun. It's all basically technique. Occasionally, we'll do a little live wrestling, usually with our high school kids, and we're fortunate to have an awesome space at our Parks and Recreation Center. So we have two full mats, and then we have a wrestling room as well, and we have air conditioning, which helps because it can get very hot in July. So we're doing this July 6th through the 10th. So right after July 4th, you come have some fireworks with us in Nutley. Right now, I think I have about 80 kids coming, and we'll probably get at least 30 or 40 more. So it should be a packed night.
Absolutely, and it really is a great time and great stuff going on over there. I know I brought my boys over there. I know they're a little bit young, but they enjoyed going over there and even running around after. I know
Yeah,
I spoke there several times about mindset to the parents. That seemed to be really well received.
yeah, we're hoping to have you again. Pick whatever night. I think you may be interested in that Mitch Messenbrink night. A lot of people will be coming for that. But whatever night you decide to come and we'll definitely have you speak to everybody. It is uh, more so just not just wrestling. Like wrestling is a vehicle that drives this, but it's a common denominator for everybody. But for me, I feel like what I've been able to do at the clinic over the last, I think this is about our 6th year doing it, is trying to get people just to be interested and passionate about being part of something that's bigger than themselves. So everybody that comes, they talk about, they show moves, and anybody can show moves. We show moves all year long, but it's deeper meaning, significance to like being part of something that's big, and being connected that way. We have kids from not just Nutley, we all over the place. So it's
Mindset Monday is brought to you by our official sponsors, Eat Clean, bro. Make sure you order today, get them delivered right to your house, check them out, and make sure you put in your discount code MINDSET.
it's grown, and it's deeply meaningful to me to have those lessons, especially from high level people that speak about hard work, about discipline, about love, being passionate about what you do and trying to be better each day. All those types of things are intangible. And I think the kids, they kind of like sponges, they kind of soak that up and take it away with them, not just learning how to do a single leg or a different finish. It's a deeper meaning to that. So become pretty profound, and I'm gonna keep doing it. I love doing it, and I'm happy that we can give this to people because back when I was first coaching youth wrestling, we traveled out to Ohio State. Tom Ryan runs a great camp out there, but it's 8.5 hours away, and that's not feasible for most people. So this is close. This is right in North New Jersey, and we're hoping to get a lot of people to come be a part of it.
Definitely. And I love looking at wrestling, the bigger picture, right? You really using it as a vehicle to change people's lives. It's not just, like you said, it's not just single legs. You can get that anywhere.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's a gift of this. The gift of time too. Like you only get a certain amount of time to do these things and experience these things, and eventually you're a spectator a lot longer than you're a competitor. So if we can give these kids some great people to follow, it's a give back in a sense because I would have loved to have an experience like this when I was a kid. It didn't exist. Just we've become able to access people a little bit easier now, social media and the connections that people have with each other. And I think the wrestling community is very tight knit that way. And they speak similar language, even though they're learning it in different ways in different places. That idea of, putting in that effort and work to get better and improve. And it's important.
Big time. Big time. So now talk about, Michael, I want you to talk about your book also. Talk about what's
Yeah,
going on there. What inspired you? Do you have a copy that you could show everyone
I
where they
do.
could
Yeah.
buy it? Yeah.
Yeah, this is the book. It's called The Path to Takes. Actually, I got a picture of me in action there talking with Coach Galante from TCNJ. It's one of our clinics in the past. One of my buddies in here too. He managed to slip in here, Frank Giordano, and he was busting my chops as we got into the picture. And of course, off the side, my father, who's always supporting me through my youth wrestling career, my college career. But the book is born of the fact that I'm a restless spirit, and a few years ago, when I finished coaching one of our youth seasons, I had been formerly a college wrestler, a high school coach, and then when I had my children, I have three boys. I changed things up and I started getting involved with youth wrestling, and I really was feeling my way in the beginning of it. And as I was involved with it for about 10 years, I started getting an idea of how to run an organization, a system that would like attract more people and grow the sport, but also too, we're teaching intangibles that are really important that they carry into the classroom, into the community. And so for me, I was thinking about a lot of these ideas, and then I was like, you know what, I need to write some of this stuff down, but I have to tell a story of how I came to this mindset. And a lot of it was over the course of being a competitor, being a high school coach, thinking I knew so many things, and then coming and being involved with youth wrestling and realizing I was building it from the ground up. And I had a lot of support, a lot of great people that I was involved with, but putting words to it and telling a story was important to me. So I found that doing that, um, I started just putting together the ideas, and it started becoming chapters, and then it started becoming this book. And the book took me about 4 months to write, and then I really spent a long time revising, editing, and shaping it. And I sourced it out to some people that I trusted for feedback and ideas. And around this past December, actually right after Christmas, I decided to pull the plug and pull the trigger on it and publish it. And Amazon has a great platform. You can self publish on Amazon, and they produce the book, as it's ordered. So there's not a lot of costs out to me. It does cost money to produce it, but they have accessible, you know, techniques there that are really established. So I have a paper book back and a hardcover version of it, and I'm thinking about doing some type of audible uh, book, so people can listen to it too. But I haven't gotten to that point yet.
Was there anything that surprised you as you were writing the book? Like anything that, sometimes we start writing the book, and then the book starts writing itself to a certain extent.
Yeah, it's to me. I've described it to people who have read it. it's almost like 2 books. It's like my origin story of how I came to become involved with wrestling and decided to take wrestling to the college level and compete at that level, and then how that transitioned to coaching. And then a great deal of it is how skills that I developed as a wrestler kind of spilled over into my personal life and my professional life. And then, of course, even into my coaching life. Because I kind of feel like we're coaching our families, like my children have been coached by me in everything. The things that I want them to really learn or that I think are valuable and important. They learn that through sport, but they also learn that through conversation at home, especially around the dinner table.
Right.
So yeah, the book is like 2 books. The first part is how I got to this point in my mindset, and then how I use that in just everyday life, and how I was inspired by a lot of other people. So you know, I wouldn't say that anything in here is it's originally Mike Blanchard. It's borrowed and adapted by me, and then taken further. Of course, a huge inspiration for me was Coach Tom Ryan. When I met him, that was a transformative moment in my coaching philosophy, and even how I approach just everybody that I deal with from this point forward. So they're instrumental people that you meet, and then you carry forth lessons from them and develop those further. And he was a uh, big source of the inspiration for me. And then, of course, my wife too. When you marry somebody, you blend your household together, and then when you're raising children, you start to form these ideas of how things should be and what your expectations are for, how you're trying to develop these people to become independent of you. My dad always said, "You raise them to leave you." My oldest is going to be a freshman next year in college, so we're already starting to move kids out of our home, which is a weird proposition, and it's definitely changing our household. So we're going to be going from 3 people here to 2, and how do they interact and how do they get along? And then also, too, can my son do his own laundry? Can he function? Can he, wake himself up in the morning, get to class on time, do his schoolwork, be a productive person? So all those things are skills that you develop through a lifetime of teaching and learning and listening and sitting around that dinner table and hearing these things. So we're starting to see it come to fruition. So it's those kinds of things. It's not just a wrestling book. Wrestling is part of it, but it's also just kind of a life book about things that you learn as you grow. You continue to grow and get better. So
Who would you say would benefit the most? What audience? I know everyone would benefit from it, but who would it be most for or take the most from it? Would it be a parent,
um,
a coach, a wrestler?
I honestly think all levels. I've had people come up to me and say like, my son is like in 4th grade and wants to read the book, and I'm like, I should to them maybe read the book together or read parts of it, or maybe you read it first and then pick the things that you think might be meaningful. Because there are some things in here that I don't think, with not a lot of life experience, it might not resonate as well. But in terms of kids in the high school level, I think that they could get something out of it. Especially, there's a lot in there about failure. To me, I think failure is a really good thing, even though that sounds weird as a wrestling coach or a person who wants to be successful. But you don't really appreciate success until you failed a bit, and you don't really know what you need to tweak or do better until you failed. So I always like look back on my failures with gratitude. Like I'm thankful for them because they taught me how to be better. They taught me I wasn't the best in that moment and what I needed to do to improve. And anybody that's going through, life and always winning all the time or always finding success, I question that because I think maybe you're not challenging yourself or you're not finding your ceiling, and that's important. I think so. I will tell anybody, like even in everyday life, failing at certain things is important because it does help you, and it gives you an opportunity to be thankful for the good moments, but also to embrace the bad ones too, because there are plenty of those.
The time is now to take your mindset to the next level with Wrestling Mindset. Make sure you go to our website, wrestlingmindset.com, and sign up for your free trial session today. Don't wait any longer. You want the mental edge right now. When you sign up for the free trial session, you're also going to get a copy of our free ebook, Building the Predator Mindset. This book has helped thousands of people build confidence, relax under pressure, get motivated, and build mental toughness in wrestling, school, and life. Make sure you sign up for your free trial session today. Right, absolutely. What might a parent gain the most from this?
I think the idea that the kids that they're involved with, whether they were a wrestler themselves or now as a parent, they're supporting their child in wrestling, is to kind of step back from it a bit and let them have their moment. Even if you know that they're doing something that maybe that's not going to help them as much, uh, they sometimes need to have those tough moments and need to experience setbacks so that they can improve and so that they can figure out what works for them. I have 3 sons, only one of them wrestles. All 3 tried it, 2 of which I always say they're the smart ones. They realize, "I don't wanna do this. There's a lot of other things that are more fun out there." But the truth is they all benefited from their time with it, but they figured out they had a different calling. My oldest son loves track. My middle son's the wrestler, and my youngest is really into soccer. So, they all have their own things. They all gravitate to them, and they as they figure them out, we just support them. That's our job as parents. I had my time. I had my moments. I continue to have my moments. I have my life, but I also share in the responsibility of helping cultivate theirs. But it's not through forcing them to do certain things or telling them my way is the only way. They have to figure that out themselves, and we're there as guides. So I think parents can gain a lot from that idea of it too, because in the book, there's a lot of mention of just letting them do their thing and figure it out and not be overbearing. We see a lot of that in wrestling, especially.
Yeah, it's tough because a lot of times you see the most successful guys, their parents either they are overbearing or they have very strong push in that direction. So it's almost like you want to find that balance. I think about that as a young dad, not so much being young myself, my kids being young, thinking about how do you steer the ship, but at the same time they do have to find their own way. You don't want to fit a square peg in a round hole. You don't want to ever look at your kid as part two, and that's not what they're not
Right,
part two of you. They're
right.
themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things I say in the book is, first off, I think my children are already better than I am. In some respects, they have more confidence at their ages than I ever did at their age. I gained my confidence through experience and over time. But, I think too, I've always wanted my children to be better than me. And I didn't understand that until I became a parent because my father used to say the same thing to me, and I didn't get it. I was like, "Why would you want me to be better than you? Like, you're my dad. You're the guy I should aspire to be more like." And then as I became a parent and I got more involved with my children, I realized, no, I want them to be an improvement. They're like, we have these. How many iPhones do we have at this point, right? Where I think we're up to 16, and we'll probably be continuing that, So I look at my kids as the upgrade of me. They're better than I am. I want them to be better than me. And where they're not as good as I am, I want to help them to be better. Um, I don't want to be the end of it. That's how your legacy is built, I guess, through your family and I want them to be a better version of me and be stronger and smarter and faster and quicker and more intelligent and all those things. I don't want them to end with me. And I'm not the last version here.
Right. And want to be better than us, but not necessarily do the things we do in the sense of interests or sports. That's what you're
Right.
saying.
Right. Whatever they do, I want them to excel at it, but it's got to be their choosing and their passion. And if they want to do the same thing that I do, that's fine. I know a lot about it that I can help you, but at the same time, I'm not going to be the one that decides that. You have to decide that. It's that's the title of the book too. The path we take is really about the choices we make, the people we surround ourselves with, the way we spend our time. That's one thing as I get older, I'm really finding is time is time's undefeated. We can't get more of it. So how we treasure it and value it, it's precious, and how we use it, that's really critical and important. And I think when you're young, you don't understand that because you think you have all the time in the world, and you can put things off or delay it or come back to it. If I could sleep 2 or 3 hours a night, I would just so I could spend my time more wisely. I probably wouldn't be as productive, but the reality is, you don't get more of this precious commodity. It's the one thing that we don't invest enough in, and we spend it frivolously at times. So I'm more appreciative of that lately, and I'm trying to impart that into my children and my family, and of course
Absolutely.
anybody willing to read the book.
And a big shout out to our sponsors, Eat Clean Bro and Champion Athletes. You need to eat like a champion to think like a champion. Mindset makes the difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. What might a wrestler get the most from this?
Um, I think the value of missteps. I think a lot of sports today, youth sports have become um, very heavily populated, but like without uh, diversification. And what I mean by that is like it used to be seasonal. Like I played soccer in the fall, I wrestled in the winter, and in the spring I would play some baseball. And now you're seeing, even at a young age, you're seeing kids that are just doing one
Specialists.
thing. And I don't know if I completely agree with that idea. I think you should be a little bit multifaceted and figure it out as you go, what you're good at, what you like, and then pursue it as you get older. Um, because I do think a lot of college coaches, if you're playing on wrestling in college, I think they do look at that. They want to see a kid that doesn't just wrestle, doesn't just play soccer or basketball or football. They want to see somebody that can be on a different team and get around life with different people, not always be around the same groups. So I think that part of it, but I also think this idea truly of you got to fail a lot before you succeed. And um, if you look at some of the greatest people out there, they were a failure, but they always came back and tried once more. I think Edison was somebody I used in the book. That idea of he perfected the light bulb, but he failed so many times before he finally got it right. And that one success outweighs all the others. The 500 failures before that don't get talked about as that one success where the light bulb now functions and we use it everywhere, right? So that idea of failing is important, but coming back from failure is more important than anything, and being able to shape in your life through those moments. I think that's what a high school kid could get out of it, or a wrestler for sure.
Excellent, excellent. And are you planning to write any other books coming up in the future, or is that to be
I
determined?
Yeah, no, actually, I mentioned that to my wife the other day, and she's like, "You're crazy. Just ride this one for a little while and then see." But I did develop a blog recently, and I call that the path forward. So that's kind of the continuation of writing. I do enjoy writing, and I find that to be more of like a weekly thing where it's almost like an online journal in a respect, where something that comes up or a thought that pops into my head. It's certainly shorter, easier to do. So I'm trying to do that. I do want to do some speaking in the near future. So I'm going to pursue a couple different things, but this is all in between being a dad, seeing changes in my own family dynamic with my son getting ready to go to college, and then of course the idea that I'm still like an Uber for at least one of my kids, where I'm driving them to different sporting events and activities. So, somewhere in there, I will find that time to probably do a second book. But right now, I'm just enjoying this one and what comes with it. I do like talking about it with people like you. I think there's a lot of people out there that share these ideas. I'm reading more books. I just started reading another book called "Discipline Is Destiny" by Ryan Holiday. I definitely recommend his books. They're really in that vein of that idea of improvement and seeing the world in a different way, not just the way that's maybe uh, Instagram worthy or Facebook worthy, just thinking about things in a different way. So I'm enjoying all that stuff right now. So to answer your question simply, yeah, I'll probably write another book at some point.
Once you catch that bug, it'd be hard to stop, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good stuff. All right. So we got the camp, we got the book. Anything else coming out, or anything else you wanted to put out there? Where could they follow you? Where could they go to join the camp, to get the book, all that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. It's mblanchard23 on Instagram. Also, the path we take on Instagram. That's more like book related, but I kind of link those two things up. And then, of course, we're out there with our wrestling program. Even though I'm not running our youth program anymore, I'm still heavily involved with it. And I've got a great group of people that are doing that now, which I've learned it's better to have many buy in and have leadership roles than just have one lead. So that's growth on my part, and we had a really successful season this year. The high school level too. We're seeing a lot of our youth wrestlers that make their way to the high school now, and I'm enjoying being a spectator, being a dad. It's tough. I sometimes find myself saying things out loud in the stands, and letting the coaches coach. is a tough thing for me, but I'm working on that. But I'm enjoying all this stuff at this point because it's of my own making. I've chosen to be the spectator, be the dad, and be the kind of guy that now helps other people lead themselves. So it's all great.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's a lot of times the process of trial and error. You fail, you grow, you learn. That doesn't change when you're whether you're a wrestler, whether you're a coach, whether you're a parent. That's always part of the process. And the key is, am I content with where I'm at, or am I trying to get better? As soon as we close our mind down or we get discouraged because of a temporary failure, then we're beat. So yeah, your materials are really going to help people. Everyone should go check out the camp if you can. Come right up here, North Jersey, great place to be, and definitely buy the book. Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. Thanks so much for having me. And if I could just say one last thing, what I want to impart to people is this idea. I think sometimes we are very much about like our own thing, and I found that celebrating other people has been great. It's been like the thing that has made me more appreciative and happier in life in general. So, like for example, sometimes you see this in the sport of wrestling. Somebody has a successful weekend where they gain an accolade, and we start thinking about like our own child or our own situation. Like, well, my kid didn't get that, or they didn't do that. Instead of thinking about like, how great is it that that kid got to do that, and we know what goes into it to achieve these things. So I found celebrating other people lately has been a pathway to more gratitude in my life, and I'm just thankful that we have people like yourself who understand that, and you celebrate a lot of great people on your podcast. And I think that's important for our young people to see because it's not just like their story. Our stories are all connected, and when one person is successful, or we're all kind of elevated to aspire to be a little bit more than what we are. So I think that's important for people to start thinking that way and gain that because that's a good perspective to have in life. You go through life a lot less upset and miserable when you start celebrating other people.
Absolutely. Well, we're built for communion with God and one another, so that's the key. So thanks again, Michael. Love to have you back when you write your next book, and we're excited to come out to the camp again. We'll
Sounds
see you.
good. Thanks so much for having me.
Take care.